Yo, yo, yo. All right. Happy Monday night. I'm a little late, and as you can see, we're having technical difficulties, but you guys get the wonderful view of an owl in the background today because my camera and everything got shut down. Our power got cut off today because they were doing some work on our house. And so still dealing with some of the issues from that, but we're here. We're going to make it happen. we're going to run it down like we always do on a Monday night. Jump in the chat here with super chats and whatever other questions you have. But we're going to kick it off with where things are at. So obviously we did not get the spike in oil that we anticipated today. Unfortunately, they didn't ever really formally announce the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. So there was a lot of speculation that was going to happen, a lot of hearsay. A lot of banks said that we would have a significant move in oil. A lot of people came out and said, hey, look, we think oil is going to move higher. Then we had oil come down today. A lot of conjecture and back and forth. And then, we had a really interesting sequence of events that's kind of played out here with this conflict in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. So we obviously over the weekend struck the nuclear facilities there in Iran. There's footage of us taking those out. Their retaliation was they were going to vote to shut down the Strait. And then they attacked a U.S. base in Qatar today, but they let everybody know that they were going to do it. So there wasn't a ton of collateral damage, which is very weird. That's not how war is fought. Like, if you're going to retaliate, like, you're trying to take a piece of flesh. So interesting that they would, like, it just seems very orchestrated and back and forth. I don't know. It's just not what you would expect on stuff if there was an actual conflict going on. It seems weird. There was some retaliation back and forth, and then now Trump's come out and said there's a ceasefire, and then they killed one more person, but before the ceasefire was over. So is the ceasefire really over? Is there going to continue to be conflict between Iran and Israel? I don't think Israel wants it to stop. There's a lot more to that, right, than meets the eye. If the industrial complex is churning along, there's a reason to print more money. There's a lot of things, that benefit Israel and some other counterparties if things persist in the manner that they have for the last 50 years while the U.S. has been at war. We haven't been at war in a while. It's actually technically income tax is not due if we're not at war. The whole point of income tax when it was passed was to finance the Vietnam War. And since then, we've just had war after war after war to continue to have income tax and be taxed on both the purchase and your income, purchase of goods and your income. That shouldn't be going on. If we're not at war, there should be no income tax, right? Most people don't know that because your whole life you've just had to pay the income tax. But in reality, the way that the law was written and the way it was imposed was if we are not at war in the U.S., there shouldn't be an income tax. So, Trump has stated many times that he's looking to get rid of that. Maybe they're not going to be a tax on people that make less than $150,000 a year. Maybe there's going to be UBI. There's all kinds of things that, I do think kind of transpire over the next 3-4 years here while Trump is in office before whatever the next iteration of our government's going to be. I don't think it's going to look anywhere close to the same as it has been, especially with all the changes that are taking place. So anyway, on that, I do still think there's going to be a spike in oil, but I think it's going to be orchestrated. I think there was a lot of people that went leveraged long today on oil, and if they wanted to talk their book and remove those leverage longs, the best way to do that is to make it go down in the short term. I think it's a possibility that the conflict will continue to escalate in some capacity, and I do still think that the Strait of Hormuz could formally be announced that it's closed. And if you saw that, that's when we will get the move higher in oil that we're looking for the unwind or the reverse carry trade. Some other interesting things that kind of played out today. You saw the markets down over the weekend in crypto. if you bought the dip, you're doing pretty good today. You're up 10, 15% across the board. Didn't really matter what you bought. Bitcoin, I think, up 6, 7% over the last 24 hours here since the fall, yesterday evening. So again, if you bought XRP below $2, again, not financial advice. Oh, and I should start with the disclaimer. The opinions shared here are my own. They do not reflect the opinions of Digital Wealth Partners or any of their partners. Everything said here is my own opinion and separate of any of the corporations that I manage. And then also, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice. Please consult with your financial advisor before making any investment decisions. If you need a financial advisor, you can go talk to Digital Wealth Partners, and they will work with you. They are a registered RIA and have Series 65s, and they can give you financial advice, and they can help manage your digital assets. So with that out of the way, I bought the dip, dippy dip, and then the dip that dipped again, just like everybody does, you're like, it's done, and then inevitably it falls one more time. So anyway, on the topic of the oil, I do still think we're going to see a spike in the near future. I do think that things in the Middle East are not quite done yet. And I do think on the other side of that, we're going to get the unwind of the reverse carry trade and all the dominoes that I've been talking about for a long time. The Strait of Hormuz is still a big piece of that. If we don't get an actual closure of the Strait, there's going to have to be something else that causes oil markets to spike. That's the only thing that's really going to get Japan to move on their rates and raise interest rates aggressively in a short period of time, would be skyrocketing energy costs. So that is still the thesis. It still stands. Did it play out? They kick can just a little bit further, like they have been for a long time. Still waiting on BlackRock to throw their hat in the ring for the ETF. Still waiting on Judge Torres to issue her ruling on the case. And I mentioned this in the Mastermind, but I don't think I've mentioned it publicly. I kind of anticipate, if we want, well, again, this is bias playing into this, so take it with a grain of salt. These are just my thoughts that I have. If we wanted to orchestrate a supply shock on XRP and make it where the only available supply was on the secondary market and you couldn't go to Ripple, the judge, even though the SEC is, pivoted on the fact that they think that, the judge should remove the injunction against Ripple, if she leaves that instated and Ripple cannot sell to institutions, enterprises, and other people with their supply of XRP as it comes onto the market, that really puts a supply constraint on XRP if there is a significant amount of demand. The pre-allocated contracts would still stand, but any additional XRP that people were looking to purchase would have to be on the secondary market. And I think that that's probably how this plays out. I think that the ruling for the injunction against Ripple selling to institutions and enterprises here in the U.S. is going to stand. That's my best, again, I have biases on this, so just take it with a grain of salt. But that is my guess on how it plays out and what we're going to get from the judge, and that'll be the final ruling. Got everybody running over here on TikTok about Arthur Britto, and I'll get to that in just a second. So that's my thesis. I'm still sticking to it. I think the domino theory stands as it is. I will say this. I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman on Twitter on Sunday. I don't know that Tether gets sanctioned because of the stablecoin bill. I think I might have that wrong. I think that there may be other news, and again, I don't want to get banned or anything, but like if there's a certain list that's exposed that has been kept under wraps for an extended period of time, you guys know what list I'm talking about, and it was discovered that those individuals on that list used Tether or Bitcoin to facilitate transactions, that could be a big black eye for both of those and cause bank runs on Tether. It can incite fear or loss of confidence, which is the underpinning, right, to every fiat currency that's issued. If there is a run, and that's how we've seen both Terra Luna collapse and all the other stable coins, was there was a bank run all at one time and it depegged, and then people lost confidence and it spiraled. So maybe that's the demise of Tether and what causes a liquidity crisis. Maybe I'm still kind of fuzzy around the how around Tether. I know Tether's involved and I know Bitcoin's involved, and I think there's going to be substantial losses that lead to systemic risk in the stock market and the exposure the investment banks and other people have at this point. But the linchpin for Tether, I still haven't quite put my finger on. So that's the only piece. There was a person that was going to ask, like, which part of the domino theory do you think is the least likely? The way that I've orchestrated Tether and it getting sanctioned by the U.S. government, I think could be the least likely, at least for the reason that I mentioned for the stablecoin bill. It may be for another reason that happens. Something else would have to transpire. So there's that. And then so we'll get to Arthur Britto. He tweeted today for the first time in almost 14 years. His account's been dormant, just hasn't tweeted anything. There's another account on Twitter, on X, that I have followed for a long time that I think is Arthur Britto. I could be wrong about that. Again, don't have a crystal ball, but just based on some of the comments the account has made over the years, I think it's Arthur Britto. I think he left his personal account alone until just now for a reason. Pretty interesting that he would tweet today of all days with, things in the place that they are, and then post a emoji with no mouth, like stay quiet, or I can't talk about it, or his breath is taken away by what's about to happen. Like, there's a lot of ways you could read into that. You could also read into it that it's a bad thing. A lot of people are guessing. It's very vague that he posted that in comparison to any words or anything behind it. So you can read into it however you want to. I think it's bullish that he posts anything after 13 years of silence. So Laura's asked Arthur who? Arthur Britto and David Schwartz were the chief architects of the XRPL. They were Arthur's who originally minted XNS, which was XRP back in the day, 100 billion of them, black holed the initial account, and did all that. He also was the CTO at and chief architect at PolySign before all that happened. And I can tell you the infrastructure that they had was fantastic. In the conversations that I've had with Jack McDonald, he knows Arthur very well, obviously, from the time that he spent there. Arthur is very, very private. You're not going to be able to find but maybe one or two photos of him online. You have to search really hard for them. Difficult to pin down. So anyway, interesting individual, to say the least. And for him to post today again, in my opinion, signals that things are very bullish. Arthur Britto said XRP was designed for $10,000. He did say that. David Schwartz has said the same thing. So again, I know we posted these reels with my podcast for me and Bradley, and they've got subtraction. There's a lot of hate on them. There's a lot of people saying that I'm being egregious and that there's no way that the prices are going to go to that, and how dare I even speculate that prices could go that high for an asset, and it's financial advice, and it looks poorly, it reflects poorly on your firm, and da 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 da. Look, I'm going to state my opinion. I'm going to come out here and talk about stuff. I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I have a strong belief in this asset in particular. I have a thesis behind it. I explain that again, and I state all the time. Disclosure I put at the front of this. I'm not a financial advisor. You make your own investment decisions. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing and what I think, and if you want to use that in any capacity, there's no recourse against me. I'm not liable for your choices. Right? But at the same time, I'm not going to just shy away from it. I'm going to come out here and talk and, speak my mind on stuff. So anyway, appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evening. We got 2,100 people here on YouTube. We got a lot of people on X. We got a lot of people here on TikTok also. Thank you all for taking time out of your evening to listen to me ramble on and ask great questions. And speaking of the questions, we'll go ahead and hop into them here. I've been rambling on for about 20 minutes, just going over the macro and different stuff. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. We got Luciano. They say, let me pull this out so I can see this a little bit better. Jake, purchased my LLC, received welcome email. When do I fill out my operating agreement? What will DFO provide? NACS number. Will I get a phone call? What is the order of operations? I don't know what to do. I'm just a day laborer. Yeah. So once you've paid, you will get a follow-up email. You should look for it. You will fill out the application that, gives us all the information to be able to file the LLC on your behalf, work with our legal firm in order to do that. And then we file it using NAICS code 551112 or 551114. Both of those are holding companies that manage alternative investments. And then you'll receive the operating agreement and the other information once you get your documents back. So your operating agreement, articles of incorporation, EIN number, all that stuff. Once the entity is actually filed and formed, you'll be able to set up an operating agreement. We provide you a template for that. And if you need a call, all you got to do is email the email that you got, which would be info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and say, hey, having some trouble walking through this, or I have a few questions. Ideally, it's just like, here's my few questions in the email. But if you do need a phone call, we will take it, schedule a time, and go through it with you. And appreciate you working with us, man. Excited that you took advantage of the deal. If you want to set up an LLC for your digital assets, the LLC is filed in Wyoming for 3 reasons. You get anonymity, you get no taxes no state taxes in Wyoming. And it's the best regulatory laws currently when it comes to digital assets, most protections there. You also get the benefits that you get from like South Dakota and Nevada. If the corporate veil is intact, which we provide you with all the resources to do, then it effectively the most anybody can do against your LLC or digital assets is place a charging order against them. So there's a lot of protections that are found there in Wyoming. And that's why we file it there. So if it's something you need or you feel like you want to, I wouldn't do it until your assets are worth more than $50,000 to $80,000 in crypto. On the other side of that's when it starts to become reasonable to file an LLC to be able to manage your assets, especially if you think they're going much higher in value. And if that's the case, then you can use the code 50OFF, 50OFF DAG LLC. If you go to the website digitalfamilyoffice.io, you can go to the services page and then put that code in. It's 50OFF DAG LLC. It's all capitalized, and that gets you everything all in for $2,000. You can go try to use other people to set this up. Use your LegalZoom and whatever else. Wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend using an attorney if you are going to go outside of us. Some people still need help with the operating agreement. They have special provisions that they want to put in there. We will provide you legal counsel or recommendations on legal counsel if you need it. And but the template that we have is pretty robust, and you will get updated templates as things change with the regulations and what things look like. So just try to stay on top of it for people. And again, if you want that set up for you and your family to be able to manage digital assets, just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and use the code 50OFF, 50OFF DAG LLC. We've got Wayne. What's up, Wayne? He says, ¿Qué pasó? Mito y Leanda. I'm probably cussing in Spanish right now. I have no clue. Circle is killing it. And it's just a stablecoin company. I foresee XRP taking the same path once the Genius Act is signed. Throw in no taxes on crypto bonus. Same day, $10 to $20 XRP on this alone. Quite possible, sir. I think it could go significantly higher than that on that type of news. I always forget to say this, but Liners has reminded me, if you're over here on YouTube, please smash the like button. Subscribe, share with somebody else if you think it's valuable. It does really help the algorithm, and we do appreciate it. I get on here, every Monday and Wednesday night and try to run stuff down in the live, answer a lot of questions for people, and I do really enjoy this. So again, appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening to hang out with me. We got Johnny Lakers. What's up, man? He says, Jake, do you think it's almost an and a certainty that XRP has to have liquidity in it by the ISO 220. It's actually 2 zeros in there, 20022, November 2025 deadline. Thanks, bro. Yes. Yeah. You're not going to get the price appreciation from implementation. There needs to be a supply shock to drive liquidity into the asset so that it can then be used in that capacity. Until there's enough liquidity in XRP, they're not going to be able to use it to be able to settle transactions at scale for the banks or the stable coins or for Swift or for the back end of the stock market or all the other wonderful things that I talk about. So we need the supply shock for that to happen. And I do think, maybe even by the July deadline.
Oh, you already got one.
Yeah.
Well, it's hot.
That's all right. Thank you, my wonderful wife with more tea. I'll let that one cool off while I drink the other one.
The owl?
Yeah, well, look, the power was out today. I know.
You were about to blame me.
I was. We got DKNY. He says, hey, Jake, how are you, sir? Appreciate the super chat, by the way. Appreciate you. Now that Iran and Israel war has a bust for the Japanese reverse carry trade, any clue? I don't think it's a bust. Like I talked about at the beginning of this, I don't think it's over. It's just way too planned out. Seems very orchestrated. This isn't how a normal war goes. Okay, the retaliation would have been fast, and it would have been not disclosed. Like they were like, hey, we're going to attack this military base, better evacuate people so it's not a problem for you. Who does that? That's not a thing. Very weird. Very, very weird. I think we're still in this thing. I think that Israel, again, there's a lot more to this. The industrial complex here in the U.S. and the dollar supremacy and what it's been used for over the last 50 years. Israel's been a large component of that. If you do any research, you would figure that out. I don't think they want this to be over. They need the money printer to kick back on. And so I think, but they're in between a rock and a hard place. And I think that's the point of this. Like, if they retaliate and it's real, and Iran then has the recourse to shut down the Strait, and then we know what that leads to. So they can pause and hold off here for a second, but they're really they need the money printer to kick back on. If it doesn't kick back on, they're in trouble. And if they start the war, now that they've pushed this direction, everything implodes on itself. So it's kind of a catch-22. Either I think that they are going to retaliate in some capacity that causes the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. And I don't think it's going to take very long. I could be wrong. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, guys. I see the writing on the wall. I try to read the tea leaves. I try to explain what I think is going to happen to you. Not to you specifically, but globally. And how that could work out in our favor if you're invested in certain things. And again, I have a bias, right? I'm very aware of my bias. I think it's correct. If you bet against the consensus and you're right, that is when you make a bunch of money. And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll see, but I really don't think it's over. We got Rob. What's up, Rob? Appreciate you on the super chat, brother. He says, hey, Jake, thank you for accepting our call and doing what you were called to do. Thank you, man. I really do enjoy this. I wouldn't rather, I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. This is very fulfilling for me. And it's cool to be in a position to provide value for people. We all know that you're going places. I appreciate that. Thank you for leaving breadcrumbs for us to follow. Hope to meet you post price appreciation. You will. A lot of people in the mastermind will be able to come into all the events. We do more in-person events for the mastermind than any other community in the crypto space that I'm aware of. Bored Ape Yacht Club probably used to do as many as we do, but we do pretty frequent events now. We'll have another one up in Chicago sometime in August. And then we have one in Florida at the end of the year. We got one in California in October. And we'll probably do one more here in Dallas at some point as well. So if you want to be a part of the mastermind, we got the code running at the top here, but you can check it out. Just go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the mastermind. You could do social or carbon one. Social is $25 a month after the free month. Carbon one's $100 a month after the free month. Try to provide as much value as we possibly can there in that community. I want people to feel like, wow, like I would pay more for this. It is through Discord. Discord can be a little cumbersome. Carbon 2 gets their own call separate of Discord every single week on Tuesday nights. We got about 50 people that join that call now, but it's a lot more intimate. It's not recorded. People share personal things there. Most of those individuals are high-level executives, business owners, people that are a little bit further along in their estate planning, pretty well-to-do, to afford $250 a month. Got to be doing a little bit better. So we do provide that additional call on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for that group. And they can find some time with me occasionally if they need to do that. So run private deals there in the group. We have a health share plan. If you need health insurance of some kind, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a bit older, or maybe your company's insurance are really expensive, the health share plan can save you a lot of money. It's not quite the same as insurance. Deductible, it's not a deductible. It's an interesting way that they structure it, but it's really good, especially for like catastrophic stuff that you want to mitigate risk on. So anyway, I've never been part of another community that's ever offered any kind of insurance for people. We try to bring other professionals into the community to talk about different products and services that they provide, different expertise on different types of investments, insurance, credit, you name it. We've had somebody in there come and talk about it, acquisitions. And again, these are all people that are in the network that if you join the community, we're happy to provide intros to. So if that sounds like it'd be something cool for you, again, you can just go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. It's month to month. There's no long-term contract. We got like 3,500 members, which is just wild. Super blessed and grateful to see the community growing at the rate that it is. On the other side of price appreciation, we are going to lock it down. So on the other side of a $10 XRP, it's locked down for 30 days, and we are going to raise the prices 10x from where they are today. And we're probably going to get away from the social membership. It's probably just going to be Carbon 1. So it'll be $1,000 a month just to come in the door and be part of that community. So not cheap anymore. So if it's something that you think you might be interested in, you at least want to try out and lock in the pricing today, it will not go up for existing members, and neither will the other tiers. They will be locked in at the whole price tiers that exist today. I would recommend just going ahead and trying it out and getting in here for the free month. Again, just use that code there going across the top. We got RB Dar. They say, hey, Jake, I'm not sure if this is a Friday deal or TGIF. It's hard to go through all the crazy weekend insanity and still have to wait till Monday. Cheers. Well, if you were in the mastermind, you would get Saturday morning calls, dude. You'd know exactly what's going on even over the weekend. Would love to have you there in the community. And then Honest Aim, how are you, sir? He said, Jake, Mrs. and I want to say thank you for how professional and boss you were on all the videos coming out from New York and Vegas the last week. You represented us well in Beyond Broke Mastermind to the maximum. Love all you do, sir. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you and the kind words and all the super chats and the support that you and your family have provided. It's really cool to work with you guys at the level that we have, and really excited about the future for all of us. Yeah, I had a really good time on all the podcasts. That was a really hectic week. If you want to go check it out, you can see the whole week. We vlogged the whole thing on the YouTube channel. So if you want to go check out, end to end, going to New York, being on FinTech TV, the other interviews I did there, being in Times Square, being on the billboard above NASDAQ, flying to Vegas, being on all the podcasts there in Vegas, and then at XRP Vegas. It was all documented, which was pretty cool. So go check that out if you haven't there on the YouTube channel. And Bradley should be dropping the Dropping Bombs podcast here in July, early July. Storm Striker says, I think we see $1.50. It's not going to happen, my dude. I'm sorry. Just to shake people out. I know people want lower prices, but you had 4 years to buy at lower prices. Like, I would not, well, I can't give you financial advice. I'm not waiting on $1.50 to buy. He says, if we do get a PA, most likely a shakeout before your rise, your opinion. I think you just had your shakeout. Now, the C leg is complete, and now we're moving into price appreciation. Don't anticipate. I could be wrong. Again, there could be like a black swan or something that drives price down low. I'm not the TA guy, okay? I'm event driven. I look at macro. That's what I base my thesis on. I'm a longer term play. I just dollar cost average. So you do you. If you're trying to go lower, this is how I think about it. Like if I bought Bitcoin at $1.50 or I bought it $2, do I really care? No, I don't really care. And that's how I think people are going to feel about XRP also. Thank you for everything you do and your team do. Like, subscribe, and join the mastermind. Thank you, Teresa. How's it go? Appreciate you, man. We have a really good team. I have really good people that hustle every single day. I mean, they're sending emails right now. People work into late hours of the night. People are up at midnight sending emails. People are following up with clients. The amount of volume that they've had to handle. Also, just want to give a shout out to my team over the last month. This is by far the most volume that we've ever had to handle, and they've performed extremely well. Just like everybody, there have been a few people that have fallen through the cracks, and I want to apologize for that. We do the best that we can. When you have, they sent me the reports today. We had 1,500 emails across both companies, both Digital Family Office and Digital Wealth Partners last week. We've got 3 people on customer service on both of those. So try not to miss anything, but inevitably, I think we probably missed 2 or 3 emails out of the 1,500, less than 1%, like significantly, not very many. There's always going to be some error, so just provide us some grace on that. And I know there's been a delay on a few of the LLCs also. Getting back to people, there's been some people that pinged me that said, hey, I follow on the 12th or the 15th. I haven't heard anything back. Sometimes it takes the full 10 business days to get stuff back. Not preferred. Normally doesn't happen that way, but our SLA is 3 to 10 business days on the filings for you. We got Michael. He says, hey, Jake, I don't suppose that there's a scenario where oil prices dropping helps makes us rich. No, it does. That's not, unfortunately. I appreciate the super chat, but we needed to go the other way. And I think we're still going to get it. I think it's going to be unexpected, though. I think it's going to be like announcement, and then oil goes, and then you'll see everything roll very quickly from there. He says, weekend, good to hear your voice. Appreciate you, man. Let's see here. I always get kicked back up in the chat. We got Neil, the man, the myth, the legend. I love it. Appreciate you on the kind words, brother. He says, hope all is well. Back to square one. Oil down $10 in 24 hours. Japan survives 30 days. Fed, Gov, Bowman, and Waller looking for rate cuts at the end of July. They're going to have to move. We need a stimulus in the economy. They can't print money. The only other lever that they can pull, aside from implementing these digital assets, which would reduce inflation by at least 2 or 3% immediately and increase the velocity of money, is to, cut rates. And that's like a quasi way of getting people to borrow more money and, invest money and stock market prices and all the stuff that happens when people refinance stuff and borrow money at lower interest rates. I'm still convinced on the reverse carry trade, man. I'm pretty confident that we're going to see a spike in oil. And that's what's going to cause the Bank of Japan to have to raise aggressively. A few hours ago, Israel purposely damaged the even political prison in Iran. A few minutes ago, regime change process was reported. I'm telling you, I just have a sneaking suspicion that this conflict is going to continue to escalate here. And I appreciate you, Jeremiah, for sharing that. I think so. Living Legacy, thank you, man. Again, I don't ever say it enough. If you are getting value here, please like, subscribe, share this with somebody. It does really help the algorithm in the channel. We got some more super chats. We got Mike. What's up, Mike? He says, I want to work as remote VA for Digital Wealth Partners. Hire me, seriously. I love crypto. I'm just going to state this out loud. We're at the point where we've scrapped it along for a long time. And we've been resourceful. I haven't taken money from any VCs or anybody. We've never had investors. This has been off of my back and the other businesses that we have to be able to fund all this. Max and I are the only people involved at an ownership level. And it gives us a lot of freedom and liberty to make sure that, customers remain the most important thing to us. But on that topic, you said hire you. Moving forward, we're pretty much done hiring generalists. We're going to hire the absolute best people for every single position. So if you are, a kick-ass VA, if you've done VA for 10 years and you're the best assistant that anybody could possibly ask for, sure, we would love to look at your resume. But moving forward, it's only going to be the cream of the crop that we hire. People are going to need pedigrees. People are going to need experience. We've already started to move that direction. We're going to bring on a CISO and also a head of ops that have multiple decades of experience in both those fields. Because we're at a level now where we need that level of expertise to continue to grow and provide the highest level of standard of service that we possibly can. And so I will only be hiring people that are smarter than me and better than me that can ask, like, if I ask you the questions, you should be able to tell me everything about the position in the interview before I even know what questions to ask. Or if I ask questions, you should be able to rattle off how to solve all the problems that we have. And those are the type of people that we'd be hiring moving forward. Because again, we want to be able to provide the absolute best service for all of our clients. So if that's you, Mike, would love to have a conversation with you. If it's not, we're not just picking up anybody and everybody. Mauricio, he says, thank you. Love the mastermind. Suppose George Torres does not lift the injunction. That's what I think is going to happen, brother. I think she's probably going to keep it in place. Is the acquisition of Hidden Road a hedge for third-party OTC through the XRPL limited partnerships, adoption, and appreciation? Hidden Road is a prime broker. They provide margin. They do a bunch of things. They are not a third-party OTC. They don't deal in crypto. They don't convert crypto. The person that would facilitate what you're talking about there would be more of an Uphold. Would be the acquisition that Ripple would have to make. And somebody asked me in the mastermind if I thought that was going to happen. I don't think that that's going to happen. Ripple is enterprise, and they deal with B2B, they deal with banks, they deal with institutions, they deal with other enterprises. They're not focused on retail. I don't anticipate that they're going to purchase a pseudo bank or a fintech bank that's not licensed. Uphold has licenses to be able to transact money transfers, but so does Ripple. They have their VASP in multiple jurisdictions. They have their money transmitter licenses in most states here in the U.S. They have the ability to custody assets with standard custody. So I don't know what they would, and especially if we're going to move to stablecoins and interoperability between XRP and stablecoins on the XRPL, they could use ODL direct. They wouldn't need a swap between fiat and XRP or other crypto, which is really what Uphold's provided, and that's why they have the partnership with them. But I don't anticipate that they're going to make that acquisition. But Hidden Road does not fill that gap, unfortunately. And again, these are kind of like, it's retail focused stuff. Again, Ripple is not focused on retail. I don't want to say they could really give two shits about retail, excuse my French, but anytime I've ever approached them with anything for retail, that's their opinion. They're like, we don't, like, we love the XRP army, but we're not here to help the XRP army. They've got like 1 billion, 2 billion XRP. We're trying to deal with institutions that have, hundreds of millions of XRP at a minimum, billions, if not more than hundreds of millions of XRP, and large institutional flows, and send billions of dollars in payments and all this other stuff. We keep going to the same one. Let's see here. Make sure I'm not missing any super chats. We got R2RKTO. They say, appreciate all the info. What are the requirements to join after price appreciation for those that can't afford to join before? There will be background check. There'll be a pretty extensive form that you have to fill out. You'll need, some experience in a certain field or expertise that you can provide. We're going to be hiring, high-level professionals, people that are going to continue to bring value to the community. Again, it'll be, I don't know that it'll be like to the level of Tiger 21, but there will be some pretty stringent requirements for people to manage to join, or for their ability to participate in the community moving forward. So, like I said, if you're in now, you're locked in. We take care of people. On the other side, it will be much more stringent and strict on who we allow to participate. And that's for the benefit of the community as a whole, right? Like, we're going to have a lot of people that are decamillionaires, centimillionaires, billionaires in the community, and we don't want anybody in there with malicious intent or that's not providing additional value. We got Rob. He says, as a former banker IT guy, I'm kind of focused on banking stuff outside of oil in Japan, RCT. What price do you see by the end of November based on just SEC settlement? The SEC settlement's not going to be correlated to price. I'm just going to tell you right now. If it was, you would have already seen a price run. The case is done. And the case can't be correlated to price appreciation. Otherwise, it is a security of Ripple. So the settlement of the Ripple case will have no effect, in my opinion, on the price of XRP. It can't. Otherwise, it is a security of Ripple. ETF approval, that one's definitely going to have an effect because it'll cause a supply shock, and specifically spot ETF approvals. If you see large volumes of demand to buy up those shares that have to be backed by actual XRP and have to hold that in reserve, now we're talking. Now we're going to see some big price movement. He says some measure of Swift adoption. Again, you need the price of XRP to be higher in order for that to even happen. Swift in and of itself is not going to be the driver for price appreciation. Stablecoin and clarity regulation. Those are important because the more stablecoins that are issued on the XRPL, the more liquidity is on the XRPL, the more times XRP is used to settle those transactions. Now we're talking about volume and liquidity. That would drive the price up, and hold it up is the other piece of that. So, reverse carry trade, Japan reverse carry trade in oil. Outside of that stuff, that is going to be the catalyst. You're going to need it for back-end settlement on the stock market, and if the systemic risk exists, they're going to force liquidity into it to be able to drive it to the prices needed to settle those transactions real time. And that's where I think the liquidity comes from. When it's in a crisis, they will use it, and they will orchestrate what's required in order to get it to the price level required for them to mitigate that risk. Group 1 Gavin says, loving the clips from Dropping Bombs interview. Also love the Max video put out. Incredible. Can you please touch on the multi-purpose token? So multi-purpose token's a big deal. I don't think people are even talking about this yet. We still haven't got 64, 65, and 66. But the multi-purpose token allows for tokenization of stocks and equities directly on the XRPL. There are certain rights and provisions that you get with common stock or preferred shares, especially in private equity versus other markets. And you have tag-along rights and drag-along rights. You might have ROFR, you might have co-sellers rights. There's a lot of things that get put into stock and the provisions around what type of stock it is, voting, rights. There's a lot of things. If you get first, if you're preferred shares, you are right after the creditors before the common shares. So all these things can be programmable in a smart contract, and that functionality will be available in a multi-purpose token. So that's really the benefit there. And I think I've done one video where I went over the amendments that are current and proposed on the XRPL and touched on the multi-purpose token, MPT. But that should be later. It's probably early 26, be my guess on when that actually makes it to a vote. Go ahead and scroll down. Let's see what we got going over here on TikTok. Just make sure. I always get focused over here and don't answer you guys' question. I apologize. With the injunction being lifted, hopefully soon. I don't think the injunction is going to get lifted. I could be wrong. What's with the owl behind you? It's just what the TV landed on today. Let's see here. Who got the dip yesterday? I did. I bought the dip yesterday. We got Jason. What's up, man? He says, other than HBAR and XRP, what other XRP currencies do you? What other cryptocurrencies? Geez, do you think will drive high in the short term? I don't think HBAR is going to move with XRP. That's why I don't own HBAR. I don't own anything besides XRP. I own a little bit of hash. I told you guys that. I bought a couple grand worth of hash, which is the token on provenance. That's a long-term hold. It's a gamble. Throw a little bit of change at it and see what happens. But yeah, my full net worth outside of the equity in my corporations is all XRP. I don't buy anything else because I don't think anything else is going to have the same rise when it goes as XRP. It's going to be significant. It's going to be dramatic. It's going to be outsized returns in comparison to everything else, according to my opinion, not financial advice, just my thesis. I think the other ones are going to move in a linear fashion. It may be somewhat parabolic, but it'll be more gradual of a rise as prices are speculated on and implementation happens. XLM, I think it's going to be the same way. I don't think it'll move like XRP. ZBEC, I just made a video on that. I know everybody's hot for that stuff like Velo and Stronghold and ZBEC. Maybe later. Anything that silos themselves in such a tiny niche, there's a total addressable market on that. You can quantify it and you can see, who the competitors are in that space and who they're going to have to take market share from. Hard to do, man. There's a lot of people that are significantly ingrained in certain aspects of the economy. As an example, Stronghold. A lot of people are super bullish on Stronghold. They're going to have to take market share from Stripe. So, not to say it can't be done, but if they're not even going to return my phone call when I try to use them, don't have a very good sales team. So I'm not super bullish on Stronghold. It could see some price appreciation, but over the long term, I think they'll either get acquired by Stripe or another payment provider, or they'll just get eradicated because these other payment providers that are already entrenched will just introduce their own token and wipe it off the map. I could be wrong. Again, don't have a crystal ball. These are just my opinions, and not the opinions of Digital Wealth Partners or any of my affiliated entities. Jeremiah says he posted. I don't know who posted. He just said he posted 5,890 days ago after May 8th, 2029, dated the first Bitcoin thread on Reddit. Maybe it's Arthur Britto, who I also think helped develop Bitcoin personally. Appreciate the info requirements. We already went over those for the mastermind. Again, if you want to join the mastermind, I would recommend that you do it now. Up to you, but it's beyondbroke.com and just use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. You're going to lock everything in. good to go. Social or Carbon One, your pricing remains the same. Mickle Mafia, what's up? Crypto Clay, thank you for all that you do. He says US. Yeah, man, Mickle's a fantastic advisor for us, Digital Wealth Partners. He's somebody that hustles super hard. Definitely wouldn't have been able to make this all work if he hadn't been on our team. So again, just want to shout out to him and all that he does. Much appreciated, Mickle. B-Man XRP says, hey, Jake, in the future, when or at what point would XRP start converting into drops, fractional trades? He posted this. I think he posted this in the Mastermind today. Definitely an option. I don't think you're going to have halving price or so shares on the stock market. They will, what's the term for it? I had it earlier today when we were talking about it in the Mastermind. Do like a stock split. You don't need to do that with crypto because it's fractionalized already. It's down to decimals to begin with. So I think, over $1,000, over $10,000, 4 or 5 digits is when we'll start seeing drops, just like you see sats today for Bitcoin. Justin Kincaid, he says, once my LLC is set up, do I need to file with the State Secretary of State to be able to set up a bank account for my LLC funds? Nah, it's already filed for you. Unless if you did it by yourself, then I don't know, brother. If you work with us, everything gets done to a T. You know that it's filed. A bank can go look it up. They'll find it registered with the state. What you do want to use a larger bank if you're not a resident of Wyoming, just because regional and state banks have a hard time finding the entity in another state. But if you work with Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Capital One, Mercury, any larger institution, it's not going to have a problem. They'll set it up. Doesn't matter where your entity's filed. But it does need to be filed with the state. So hopefully you did that. If you did it by yourself, if you did it with us, you don't have to worry about any of that. Rob Cyril, what's up? Super chats. Thank you, Rob. He says, if the injunction does not get lifted and Ripple can't sell to institutions, does that place us in the middle where we can essentially arbitrage to institutions who want to buy it? Yeah. Like, again, retail and secondary markets are going to be the only liquidity source for these institutions. So, and they're going to want it. They're going to need it. And we're going to have it. So, again, you're going to be in a very interesting position if you're holding large amounts of XRP, I think, on the other side of price appreciation. And again, these are just my opinions. I'm just a guy on the internet. Just some crazy guy on the internet. A lot of questions in the chat here. Make sure I get to all these. We got Michael. What's up, man? He says, what happens if a large bank or whatever runs out of XRP, cannot get any more, and cannot perform transactions? The base was empty. Everything was pulled out when Israel started everything. I'm confident that there will be liquidity pools and other ways you're able to put your XRP to work, potentially even through Flare, to be able to generate additional XRP for yourself. That might be where a certain acquisition came into play for Ripple, a prime broker. Some of the stuff there is interesting. So, yeah, I think there'll be ways for them to generate additional XRP if they need to through some other means, or the escrow will be taken over and no longer be Ripple's to manage. And maybe you go to the IMF or the US government or BlackRock to get more XRP when you need it. We've got Sean Sides. He says, hey, legend. What's up, man? Been buying in the dips and moved to DWP entry from XRP price to, hey, dropping it down, my man. That's what I'm talking about. Wanting this appreciation to run so I can get in with you as soon as possible. Also, Mastermind, enormous value. Thank you. Awesome to hear that, man. Thank you for the kind words in the Mastermind. We have, like he said, we have 3,500 people in there. It's growing exponentially. Like 600 people in the town hall the other day, which was crazy. I remember when it was like 15 people 2 years ago when we first started. So really cool to see the growth and how many people are getting value from it now. And again, if you want to lock in your stuff, you just go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, number 1, and then MO gets you a free month. And you can try it out. Again, no contract, month to month. You tell us if you want to stay in or not, vote with your dollars. But we do want to provide people as much value as we possibly can there. And I always want people to feel like I would pay more for this. We got Christian Kaplan. They say, hey, Jake, how are you? I've been thinking of setting up digital assets in a dynasty trust, gifting the cold wallets, and then using a Wyoming holding company operating LLCs. Is that a smart structure in your view? Depends on your goals, Christian. Christine? Christian? I don't know. I'm probably butchering that. Depends on your long-term goals. If your long-term goal was philanthropy, no. That is a horrible way to go about that. If your long-term goal was lifestyle, no. That is a horrible way to go about that. If your long-term goal is legacy and generational wealth and setting it up for your beneficiaries, yes. That would be a great way to go about doing that. And again, a lot of stuff we can help you with if you want to work with Digital Family Office. We got G's Good Life. I've been having issues getting LLC finalized. I've sent emails. Need help filling it out after receiving it. You're going to email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. And our team there will be able to help you out. Nicole, she says, hey, Jake, I would 100 times over pay for the Mastermind. Really cool to hear you say that. Thank you. The videos you do, the videos Max puts out over the weekend, your team and the Mastermind, it's all beyond epic. Thank you from my whole heart. Thank you so much. Really cool to get good feedback. Again, we're not afraid of constructive criticism. We always want to improve and do the best that we can, but we do like flowers, and we do really appreciate the kind words when you have them. So thank you for the kind words, and really excited to have you there in the group. We got great content. How do you think JP Morgan's DVP settlement system uses Chainlink and Ondo compares to Ripple settlement system? How do you... They just issued the moniker for JPMD. So their infrastructure is Onyx. I don't know if the token XCN is associated with it or not. I can't find definitive answers on that. But that would be the settlement token inside that infrastructure if it is. And Chainlink, it moves data. It's an oracle, price oracle. So for structured products or pricing features or smart contracts that require certain data for price features, that's where that would be, and that's what it would be used for. CCPI can be used for settlement, but it's really clunky. It's not meant to be used in that capacity. Ondo is for the tokenization of treasuries. It's tokenized real world assets. Again, it's not really settlement. It's not its main functionality. So payments in particular, neither one of those blockchains that you mentioned are what's really driving those. Pretty confident that JP Morgan will use Ripple's settlement system in their background infrastructure. Actually had somebody in the Mastermind ask Chase the other day about Fedwire and what would be used. And they said that that person was pretty intelligent. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Wayne, what's up, Wayne? He says, El Mateo means the myth. Leyende means legend. Appreciate the response. We need the motivation sometimes. The roller coaster can be stressful. Yeah, for sure, man. It definitely can. It's been a long time coming for what's about to happen here. We got Da Vinci says, I have a friend. He is wondering, does he look Does he lose access to his 50K XRP when it's in custody? No. He's still the full owner of the account. He can remove it at any time. It's an institutional custody. It's just like having another wallet, but it's insured. The security behind it is way better than just a cold wallet. And we don't take 50K XRP anymore. He missed out on that deal. We're back at 100,000 at the minimum now. So we wouldn't be able to, take 50,000 XRP. It would have to be 100,000 or more. But no, he would not lose access to it. It's an FBO account for the benefit of. It's a structured account there at Anchorage, and he maintains ownership and control of the asset. We just provide advisory services and the other signature on the account to remove it or do stuff with it. And we provide all the other products and services that we have through our partners. Let's see here. Rob, did you send this again? Or is it the same? Maybe it just kicks me up here in the chat. Let me see. Yeah, it just kicked me up here in the chat. Still doing it. Very weird. We've got Dan. What's up, Dan? He says, hey, Jake. Wondering if you could talk about dark pools and how they work. Are institutions buying XRP already? And do they have NDAs? So the way dark pools work is they're between counterparties with large transactions. There's a buyer and a seller. The dark pool orchestrates that like an OTC desk, but you don't know who the counterparty is. They vet both sides. They act as the broker, take a fee on that transaction. It has no effect on the market. It's a less regulated OTC desk, basically. And for larger purchases, like really large purchases. OTC desks that we work with, the minimums for them are 100,000 or $250,000. Dark pools would be like millions of dollars in order to be able to participate. And you would need to be probably a qualified client. Your net worth would have to be over 5 million in order to participate in that ecosystem. No NDAs required because the counterparties aren't disclosed until after the transaction closes. Already been going on a little over an hour. Probably hang out for another 20 minutes here. We got AJ with Super Chat. Appreciate you, brother. We've got Group 1, Gavin. He says, people appreciate your insights and professional knowledge. You're unique in your brutal honesty. And such a likable fellow. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Keep smiling. P.S. Don't think you're bullish enough. I don't think I am either. I get beat down, man. People come at me sideways, and I'm like, I feel really convicted. Like I'm pretty confident that this is going to go to these levels, and people are like, no, you're wrong. And just anyway. So I try to come on here and tell people, but again, I get a lot of shade for it. So I try to just, back down how amped I really am for people. Louisiana Joe, he says, I had a call with Tim on Friday. Very cool. Is it safe to assume that I'll be able to fund my account after that, ready to get rolling? Yeah. He'll send you all the documentation, everything that you need, and you'll be able to onboard. Louisiana Joe. We got Fire Hot. Thank you for all that you do. Been working on my millionaire mindset. Patience is a good thing. Yes, sir. You got it, man. Long-term thinking. That's how the wealthy play the game. They do long-term things with long-term people. This person says, I have about 2,500 XRP. Since your company doesn't work with this little amount, should I still get it? No. No, man. That's what I was saying at the beginning of this. Like, until you have at least $50,000 to $80,000 worth of digital assets, there's really not a point in setting up an LLC. You wouldn't even be able to pay yourself if you wanted to. You're welcome to do it on the other side of price appreciation. There'll be more than you'll be fine to do it on the other side of price appreciation. Even at $1,000 XRP, that's still only $2.5 million. You'll be good to go. And I say only because the gift tax threshold here in the U.S. is $13.99 million per individual. So between you and your spouse, you'd get almost $28 million that you could gift out of your taxable estate. That's one of the benefits of moving your assets into the LLC is you can squeeze the value down a couple different ways with the 409A after you've gifted, a small portion of your assets to minority shareholders, a bunch of different ways to manipulate the value. And we talked about in the Mastermind ways that you could mitigate risk of loss even further after you've set up an LLC by adding creditors, first line creditor to your account, in addition to the corporate veil and a bunch of other stuff. And again, we work with Laughlin as our paralegal firm to do all that. If you want to watch the interview I just did with Aaron, I can't think of Aaron's last name right now. He just wrote a book called Unshackled. Really cool book about being an entrepreneur. If you want to go check that out, Aaron Young is his last name, and that video dropped about a week ago with him. Mighty Mouse, thank you for the super chat. The ASA, wow, crazy super chat. Thank you so much. Just want to say thank you for all that you do, and would like to buy you and your lovely wife dinner on me and the family. Thank you, man. There's been a lot of great questions, and I'm just sitting here soaking it all up. Just wanted to tell everybody to become a member of the Mastermind because it's worth it. Thank you. Thank you, man. Wow. I have no words. Thank you so much. I would definitely be able to take my wife to a nice dinner for $300. So thank you. Thank you for the super chat and your support, and super blessed and grateful to have you there in the group, brother. Again, I wake up every day, super grateful, stressed a lot of the time because of how fast I'm running and trying to coordinate everything that we have going on. Lots of stuff that I don't even talk about on here that we're working on in the background for things. I'm always trying to run and be 3 to 5 steps ahead of everybody else, make sure I put all the puzzle pieces on the board for everybody. But anyway, thank you so much for the kind words and for the support. We got Joey. He says, Jake, I just received a saying Hong Kong has started to issue Stablecoin licenses. That'd be interesting. I would not surprise me if China jumps out ahead of the U.S. Looking for some clarity from Neil. You said possibly getting rid of social level after price appreciation. Do those numbers need to move up to carbon 1? Or they're okay because they're in prior? You're okay because you're in prior. That level will exist in perpetuity for everybody that's already there. If you want to maintain that level of membership post price appreciation, it'll just be anybody new that's coming in. Again, I always want to take care of people that are loyal, people that have stuck by us, people that have been proactive. All of that stuff matters, especially when they're going to be wealthy. And so we'll always provide additional benefits to those that have been here from the jump. And, some people just find out about us later, and that's okay. They will still get additional benefits over the long term too, but people that ride or die with us, they will be well taken care of, I can promise you. We got Nick from New Zealand. He says, hey, Jake, if the Fed were to lower rates, could this also unwind the reverse carry trade? Yeah, it absolutely could. They've been holding steady for a long time. Japan raising or them lowering either one could cause the unwind. Armani, what's up, man? He says, Jake Clizzo, what's up? What's up, man? Thanks. Thoughts on Flare after your recent interview with Hugo, and what does Vivo XRP staking mean? Think more large companies will come on board after the carry trade. Thoughts on XRP and Flare price? XRP, I think, is going to do really well. Flare, I think, is going to take a little bit longer. You haven't seen the adoption yet by institutions, but I think the institutions hold large amounts of Flare because of the airdrop and the snapshot that was taken in 2020. We talked to Hugo about, some of the institutional custodians that he's partnering with, and we're in conversations with some of them also. So it's definitely something we want to offer our clients and advocate for. There is counterparty risk with some of the stuff that he's doing, and even on chain, there's smart contract risk. We want to make sure that those things are insured if we're going to be participating in those ecosystems. He didn't seem overly concerned about regulation. Maybe that's for good reason that I don't know about. But he was there in Dubai and basically was like, I really don't care what the U.S. does. We're just going to do what we need to do. So the interesting dichotomy between him and some of the other people we work with that are extremely focused on how it works in a regulated environment and the ability to orchestrate everything he's promising in a regulated environment, whereas he's pretty lax about it. So, but we want to provide both. We want to be the conduit. We want to give people choices. And it's definitely something that we will integrate. Price, I don't know. You're not having to lock up Flare anymore or Spark token. So I don't know what that you need. You need a supply and demand dynamic. Matrix says Qatar will take care of Hormuz. I hope so, dude. That'd be great if they would lock it down. I've been to Qatar a couple times on our way to landed in Doha there before moving over to Dubai across the Strait and the ocean. So it's a nice place. I like it. Hopefully they do shut down the Strait there. Love listening to you, Jason. Appreciate you, brother, on the super chat. With all that said, what price do you see XLM and Algo in a few years? I don't know. I wish I had clear stuff for you. I think XLM could easily be 3 digits just because of Hyperledger and its integrations. A few years gives it a little bit longer. I think at that point you'll see retail adoption of stablecoins and peer-to-peer lending and a lot of the other stuff that's being built out on the Hyperledger. Merchant services will have adopted that blockchain for their ability to transact at scale and swap things. Algorand is interesting. Third world countries will likely be far along too at that point. So you should see some pretty aggressive price appreciation on both of those. 3 digits on both of them, I think seems, 2 to 3 digits is probably likely if I was just going to throw out some arbitrary numbers off the top of my head without really analyzing market cap. And when I say market cap, like total addressable market cap for their specific applications. Seems reasonable for both of those in my mind. Got a couple more super chats, then we'll wrap it up for tonight. We got BW. He says, hey there, I got stuck on LLC process. I'm being told not to register using my name. There's a warning to make changes. It would be money. Any advice here? I would not use your name in your LLC. If you want to maintain anonymity and the benefit of that, you can. There's lots of people that do. Like your last name type stuff is fine, but I wouldn't give your full name for sure in your LLC. The whole point of the LLC is to gain some anonymity and privacy and not disclose who owns the assets. So if you have a very unusual last name, probably would stray away from that and use something arbitrary or meaningful to you that other people aren't going to really understand. I've stated this before, but my dad had a saying growing up, and I abbreviated that, and I use that as my LLC name. So stuff like that makes sense to you, but other people aren't going to know what it is. That's the way I would look at it. Let's see here. We got Fly Fishing Jeremy. What's up, man? He says, thank you for the super chat. He said, Jake, if Judge Torres denies the settlement request, I don't think they're going to deny the settlement request. I think they're going to allow the $50 million, but I think she is going to not allow the injunction to be removed. Do you think Ripple will go forward with the appeal or just take the L and pay? It'll be $50 million. I think she'll approve that piece of it. What would happen to price in those instances? Again, the case cannot be correlated to price appreciation. There has to be a separation there. There is Ripple stock would do really well if that's the price you're talking about. But as far as XRP goes, it can't be correlated to the case. And that's why every time you've seen something good happen in the case and price jumped, it gets pushed back down. There can't be significant appreciation correlated to the case. So, but I appreciate you being part of the mastermind and the super chat and a good question. I think a lot of people have that same thought, which, like on the surface, it makes sense. But if you think critically about it, you're like, oh, yeah, it probably shouldn't be just for, optics. and also the long-term narrative and thesis. It makes sense that it would be not affiliated. He says, join the Beyond Broke Mastermind. You rock. XRP JC. Appreciate you, man. We got this is the JC of XRP. My little silver 1 ounce deal here. It's pretty cool. Gentleman gave me that at the Mastermind event. Let's see here. Silver, $50 silver. I think that's in the cards. Southside Crypto says, would you think it's wise to borrow against a 457B plan at 10% rate for a 5-year loan to build my XRP position? Currently hold a little over 10,000 XRP. I cannot give you financial advice. I would refer you to Digital Wealth Partners, and they could advise you on that. I would do the math. I'm not advocating for this, but I would do the math on the interest rate versus what you think XRP is going to go to. And in my mind, it's very clear what the answer on this is, but I can't state it publicly, and I cannot give you financial advice. So, we've got Bob Sager. What's up, man? He says these current events are exactly what induces the crippling uncertainty that makes these assets so hard to hold. People will quickly forget after price appreciation. Yeah. There's up and down. It's a roller coaster. You have to be willing to, take on the volatility in this asset class, and that's where the alpha is, right? If you're able to stomach significant downside, you're also able to get the significant upside when it happens. And again, appreciate the super chat and you being here on the live tonight. Jeremy says, long-winded question. China recently badmouthed stablecoins as a prop for the dollar. Does it make the dollar unbeatable for the foreseeable future, or how might the world be able to challenge if possible? The dollar is still going to be the main currency that people transact on the other side of this shift, especially if you back it like I think they're going to. However, there will be other options to purchase commodities in, and it'll be interoperable with a global standard. And over time, I think that'll shift. I think over time, people will, I think markets will eventually be priced in drops. I don't know how crazy that sounds, but 10 years from now, I think all markets are priced in drops. Brandon says, do you think XRP price will be stable after the bull run peak or fall? I think it's going to be stable. As soon as it's used to be able to settle transactions, it'll be a high stable price because of the consistent volume over the network that holds price stability. We've got Michael McDonald. He says, hey, Jake, I sent a super chat, and I think you missed it. Very first one, thanks. All right. Well, I apologize for that, Michael. We will go all the way back up here. I don't see it, brother. If you want to DM me in the Discord, I'm happy to answer that, but I don't see anything before this one. I've got this member deal. This one is at 841. If you did it before then, the first one's at 837 is the first one I can see on here. So I apologize if you did it before that. It's not allowing me to see it. And again, if you want to just DM me in the Discord, happy to answer whatever you got. This person says, anyone who thinks this is over can think again. Iran is one of the few countries that doesn't let a Rothschild-controlled central bank. Yeah, I'm with you. Again, Israel and all of this is very interesting if you know what's going on. And we are at the end of the super chats here, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it tonight. Again, appreciate you guys for hanging out. If you need an LLC to be able to, make sure that your assets are protected, and you want to manage those correctly on the other side of price appreciation, set yourself up for success. You can go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and use the code 50OFF, 50OFF, DAGLLC. Get you everything end to end, all you need for an LLC. And then if you want to participate in the mastermind, we got Living Legacy here, teeing it up for me. Appreciate you, brother. You can use the code right here, Beyond Broke, all capitalized, number 1, and MO. Get you a free month there in the group, locks you in previous to price appreciation. You get all the benefits and all the upside, and you're good to go. And again, always want to take care of people that are proactive. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. We will see you guys on Wednesday. And until then, God bless, and we'll see you guys